rolling, and you know, you guys are complaining about no structure, but you know,
I'm more of the no structure guy, I think.
yeah. But I would say, you know, we were just talking about a tournament that's coming up this summer. You know, maybe you guys can talk a little bit about what your guys' involvement and you know, on your each individual side of things, and yeah, roll with it.
Yeah, I'll go first. So TST, for everybody that's not in the know, is the 7v7 winner take all $1 million prize. And unfortunately, me, Jimmy Conrad, and my partner in crime, DeMarcus Beasley, had a team in the tournament, and we lost to DeMerit and Mike McGee's Sneaky Fox in the quarterfinals. So here's the fun catch about this, and we'll get into the details about like the emotional side of it. Of course, I'll say this. The way the schedule was set up, had we gotten past the quarterfinals in Sneaky Fox, there was no way my team would have had the energy. We were toast. We did not bring enough players.
Yeah,
we had almost everybody hurt. we were running on fumes at that point. So fair play to the teams that actually prepared and brought enough players, which we didn't. But we'll rather, you know, we'll make some changes if we come back. A little tease for everybody. But so that's what was at stake for this tournament. Nobody really knew. Year one was in Cary, North Carolina. It's great to see everybody, but I think Jay and I both had similar experiences where we really tapped back into what it was like to be a part of a team with a little bit of pressure, right? Still had to perform, and being in those environments that was just the right amount of competition, I would say, Jay.
100%,
yeah.
100%. And I think, you know, the other side, and again, we were just talking about this off air earlier, but like just amalgamating kind of these three different types of personalities too, because it's not just personalities. I'm talking about like the skill sets. You have indoor players, outdoor players, 11v11, and then you have like futsal players and beach soccer players. And so you start to like see these cast of characters, and because we're on a field that doesn't exist, which is what was it? It's 60-yard field or something.
Yeah, it's 60 yards by
games, so you're talking
40, 55.
Yeah, so like half and half, 45. Like half the amount of time, half the amount of room.
Yeah.
But you're like, then you get these different players that have never really played with each other or really against each other. And then from there it was like, you know, this unique kind of crowd, which again, there's three games going on at once. And so there's all sorts of things going in every direction. The announcers are talking about a goal, and then there's this target time, which is like the icing on the cake, which is like you have to win on a goal. So therefore, for me, which I like a celebration, is that you always have to end on a celebration.
Yeah.
And so like you always end on this cool way to like get everyone back involved, and then you move on, and you got a bunch of games thick and fast, and to Jimmy's point, it's a survival thing. Like we had guys like I was doing massage therapy by the end of it. I'm giving calf rubs. Like I turned into like chief motivation officer, and so that's my tag for the team for Sneaky Fox. But you know,
one of my favorite moments though, just to cut in, because there was an example of that where I hadn't gone into the building that had the athletic trainers. I hadn't gone in there once the whole time, and before our game, I'm like, you know what? I am falling apart. I'm just gonna go get a little work here, and I go in there, and it's like every single member of Sneaky Fox is getting treatment of some kind, and then I go around this other side where there's the tables for the athletic trainers, and it's DeMerit giving massages. I believe you're giving it to Brad Evans, or I can't remember who.
I'm telling you, I don't know where it is. And I'm sure, Jimmy, maybe you're like this too. Were you buddies with all the physios? Because I was on like soft tissue injuries a lot, and like just, you know, 15 years you're on the beds a lot, right? And so I was always pretty close to my physios. Like they were always just guys that, you know, I connected with, and I was just interested in the body always, just like how does it heal and how do we regenerate this thing so fast? And like all those questions were always answered to me by my physios or doctors that we were with, and so I always kind of stayed interested in it. And then because I was injured, I had a physio bed in my house. I've had a physio bed in my place for 10 years. And so I just like if I have friends over, I'll be like, oh, my neck's hurting. We'll just like get the physio out and we'll just like start throwing some elbows and stuff. And it actually works. And so I just think I bring those skills to Sneaky Fox too. So, you know, jack of all trades, as they say.
I don't think my team utilized the athletic trainers enough. So definitely something of note moving into year 2.
It's the key to longevity. We know this.
It really is. It really is. But you tapped into a couple things. Not only did you have a different type of collection of players that you needed to get on the same wavelength very quickly to have success, but I love the emotional component that I wasn't really prepared for. I knew that I was going to go in. I got a bunch of guys that I knew were good players, and we had to get organized quickly because nobody knew the tactics, Scott. Nobody knew how to have success on this. Now, as I come to learn, there were a few teams that were already training with the right size and were working on the subs and all that. And they came in with a little bit more of that headwind, I would say. And we had to figure it out. Like, you got to win game 1. If you're not winning game 1, you are in big trouble. Like any tournament with 4 teams in a group, you got to win that first game. It just helps your odds a lot. But the emotional component, like that attachment, like when we think about year 2 now, about building our team, we don't want to not do it with the guys we just had for year 1. Like, there's this kind of loyalty of going through this experience together, sharing this in some ways once in a lifetime experience. And year 2 is gonna feel different because it's not gonna be as new, but it'll have its own
48 teams too.
48 teams. Dude, listen, they raised the entry fee and they raised the teams.
They elongated the tournament to almost a week. I don't think they know that, like, most of us have jobs.
I know. Plus, so my issue is
anymore. We have to work.
Jay, you raise the fee and then you add more teams. It doesn't make any business sense to pay more money to have less of a chance to win. Doesn't make any business sense.
Revenue or something. I don't know.
No, it's fair. They're probably trying to make up for the losses they maybe suffered in year 1. But I get the business side of it. But I was like, whoa, guys, that's crazy. Yes, they've extended the tournament days wise, put a little bit more space between games, and added 16 teams. And I wish the prize money would have maybe moved up a little bit too, or at least given a little bit more.
If the purse to entry is bigger, so should the lottery winnings be
times 4, right?
In my opinion. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's perfect sense to my non-analytical,
brain.
But
same. I have a ping pong ball size brain. That sounds perfect. But yeah, so I look forward to it, and obviously everybody's going to be coming into the tournament this time around a lot more savvy, so that's just going to add another layer of sophistication.
As a sponsored vodka company, are looking for, again, we are very serious on the field, but we're also very serious off the field, and so we're looking at a place downtown. We're gonna rename it the Sneak Easy for the week.
No way! I love that. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, you guys, of all the teams, the 32 teams at TST the year 1. Sneaky Fox had the best reputation in terms of, if you want to go out and have some fun and extend the party off of the field or from the field or on it, you guys were number 1, like clear. I was like, guys, listen, we got a curfew. We have to make sure we're eating right. I want to win this bastard. And of course, we lose to the team.
Well, I wasn't playing, so that's not my job. As coaches and assistants, that's our job. Again, it's longer for us.
You know another thing too, before we move completely different direction, as we should, because we're just going to go off the rails here, is what I loved about Sneaky Fox, and what I think we're going to replicate too, is you guys had an insane amount of people on the sidelines that weren't playing, like massive posse. And mainly because I think a lot of the guys were hurt, but there was just this posse environment, especially when calls weren't going your way. Man, you guys were loud. And I'm like,
well, kind of take it serious. Like, we're all like tatted up, and like people got tattoos in their necks and their faces and stuff. And he's like Chicago guy. Like, yeah, I'll just call my buddy.
We're gonna definitely bring more people for our like sideline crew. That's 100%. So a lot of inspiration drawn from Jay and Sneaky Fox for sure.
Jay, you're gonna bring a tattoo artist this year on the sideline?
Well, the good thing is I actually have a point person in Raleigh. That's another reason why we kind of hit the ground running, because I have a buddy that lives there, and so he like set it up. Like, he just knew where to do, he knew where to go, he knew how to, like that kind of stuff. Like, makes a little bit of a difference too in the beginning, and I think he kind of helped us there, especially socially and kind of anything else as far as like places to go, restaurants to do, your family's in town, like that kind of stuff. What really helps, and so I think that aided in the recovery of it. But it was, for me, it's just fun to see all the pieces fit, and that's why this game is so interesting, and why like World Cups, and when the world comes together and like these cool unique tournaments come together, it's like, it's always so unique, but it's also just soccer people, and soccer people are cool people. They're fun, they're cultural, they're and this is just year one. So we're stoked. We're stoked for year two.
Yeah, definitely. And that speaks a little bit to, like, you guys both played in college, and this is primarily a college recruiting type podcast, but like when you get together back with your teams, the guys that you played with, I mean, even you two, like it's like you never stop talking to each other at some, you guys, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like
you pick up
it
right
could
where
be
you left
30
off.
years ago, or it could be yesterday. It doesn't matter. You guys are going to still have the same conversation, but, talk about like that camaraderie that's developed, and, how much it means to you guys as getting together with your old teammates.
Yeah, I guess I'll go first. I'd say the shared experience. I mean, now that we've had that in year one, you walk in, I know these guys a little bit better. To Jay's point before, like we're drawing really talented players from different areas of the game in this country, whether it's beach, futsal, indoor, and playing with guys that played 11v11. Not to say these guys didn't, but they're really cutting their teeth in different areas of the game. And so to now kind of just start for like having that shared experience and now can move forward, I feel like we're obviously going to grow even closer. So that I'm already looking forward to, that emotional component that I was not prepared for. Now I will be. And so you're almost more grateful that you're in the tournament because you're more aware of what's happening and how unique this whole tournament is. That's me getting super sentimental, by the way. But as it ties back into college, and I've coached a local high school this past season, and one of the things that I said to my seniors in particular, listen, 5, 10, 15 years from now, you're going to remember the experience more than any results. And so we need, and my captains in particular, we need to create a special experience for our players. That's what they're going to remember. It's a feeling, right? And so if you have a bad experience, you're not going to remember those years as fondly. But if we create something fun and lasting, then you're always going to look back at the shared experience going, wow, that was, how do I replicate that? How do I find that again? And what's cool about TST is that we now know that since it exists and we had such a great time, every June we're going to have an opportunity to get the band back together and have fun. And you get to add these other pieces, as Jay's already mentioning, into year two that could really enhance the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Jay, you got any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, not much more than what Jimmy already kind of talked about. But I think one of the things that's also fun, and again, this goes across the board just in the game itself, like, competing against guys that you play with and against, and like kind of getting into that. And our sidelines are getting chippy, and we want to beat each other, and that's that competitive edge I think that's unique in this type of tournament as well. But also just across the board in our sport, and I think that's a little bit undervalued. We don't talk about that enough, like how guys like just even in professionalism, when you play on the national team and then you play against somebody in club, or like opposite, you play with somebody at club and then you play against them on a national team. And like, I think that's always an interesting conundrum, and kind of how you as a competitor who, again, like most of us are out there and got to the level we did because we are ultimate competitors, and we don't give a shit who's in front of us and what's going on. Like we're there to win, and we're there to, be a good teammate and do what we need to do to win, to have success, or to get a contract, or to do the things necessary to be a professional. And I think, those intangibles, in my opinion, never leave. That those are what we stay. Again, even as you move into other jobs and transition out of a career, like those are the things I still have. Like people ask me, like, what's the difference of like of what you played in now? And I said, the only thing that's different is Saturdays. Like the only thing that's different for me. I still have micro stadiums. I still have to train every day. I still have lots of different things I have to do that make me feel like I am who I am, or a leader of my family, or whatever. All those things I can kind of replenish, but the Saturday you can't. And I think because that's when you walk out in front of, 20, 30, 40, 70, 80, you know what I mean? Like that's the fun stuff. That's the stuff you can't replace on a Saturday walking into Walmart. You know what I mean? It just doesn't transfer,
I'm here, everyone.
You're not getting the same reception from the Walmart greeter.
Yeah. They're like, sorry, who are you? No, it's a
respect
Casey
the captain's armband, please. Yeah.
You know who I am.
Yeah. So good.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't even get season tickets for the Whitecaps anymore. So it's like, oh man, that's where we're at.
So how much overlap was there in your guys' careers? And talk about the time you guys shared in the league, in the MLS together, and then men's national team and all that good stuff.
I actually feel like, Jay, we played against each other or played with each other more than against each other, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I don't think. I think we had a couple seasons. I think you were playing. But you were playing for San Jose, I think.
Kansas City, most likely.
Are you sure?
When you were in the league? When were you in the league?
2011 to 14.
See, I retired in 11, so I played 2 games. But the national team, we played together in a couple friendlies, and then
we crushed Argentina in the Copa.
We played just me and you at center back
against. Just me and you running the show back there against Messi.
Star-studded Argentina team, which we were getting absolutely run over.
Hernan Crespo,
Messi on one wing, Zanetti right behind him. Aymar came off the bench. Tevez came off the bench. They had Cambiaso, Riquelme. These guys were absolutely nasty. That might be one of the best test teams.
4 degrees with 800% humidity.
I remember we couldn't hold on to the ball, and not surprisingly,
we were doing a lot of defending. I know
we did a lot of defending.
But again, a good thing we like to defend.
There was
that's when our games really.
It was 1-1 at half. I just want to say that for everybody listening, it was 1-1 at half. And to Jay's point, you can only hold off a team of that much talent. Once they got that second one, the floodgates were open. We were holding on.
That was one of my first starts, though, so I was just glad to get that one in the bag. And Jimmy being the more experienced professional next to me was a great wingman, and I had made it through, and then I got food poisoning when I got back to the hotel. And I have a funny story about that because I got drug tested after the game, and so I had to sit up in the drug testing room, but because it was 800% humidity and 104 degrees, I had to sit up there with Riquelme, who was one of the best midfielders in the world at the time. And so I'm sitting there with him, but neither of us can pee for like 2 hours. And so we're drinking beers, we're like drinking water, like anything we can do to get ourselves hydrated again. Because you got to pee like this much, so you can't just you got to get enough in a cup. So we can't really waste it. So you just got to keep drinking until something happens. And then 2 hours, we're just sitting there. He can't speak English, I can't speak Spanish. And so every now and then we just give that big cheers, I don't know what you're saying and you don't know what I'm saying, so we shouldn't even talk, but we'll give our mutual respect for our mission right now.
I did the same. We played Germany ahead of the World Cup, and it was me and Oliver Kahn. and he had given up a really bad goal. Yeah, he doesn't come off as very warm or friendly, and I don't know if Riquelme does either. But we sat there too because you can't pee. The problem is if you drink too much, though, then it's too clear. You need to have that it's a really fine line. You're dancing, and I remember they had a shower available that you could just have that warmth on you because everybody likes to pee in the shower. And I had to hop in the shower to finally pee. It was the most ridiculous thing, stripping in front of Oliver Kahn so I could go take a piss in the shower. It's ridiculous. It's one of those life experiences. Nobody will believe that this happened. It's just not possible. So that's funny that you had that with Riquelme. That's pretty ridiculous. After the game, I got pulled into the press conference, and I've never seen so many people at a press conference before. All Argentinian and all how disrespectful of you to bring. Remember, because we had the Gold Cup before, that we didn't bring all of our top players because we had to balance the squads in multiple competitions. And I'm like, you think we came down here all this way with guys sitting outside of our hotel rooms with M16s and all kinds of because we're here to lose? Are you guys absolutely insane? And Bob's like, hey, relax. It was crazy life experiences going down to Venezuela to play in an international tournament.
Oh man!
Sure.
Well, then I got back to the hotel late, so I had to have some hotel kitchen sandwich, and it gave me food poisoning. So I didn't train for 2 days, and then I tried to play, and I remember we were playing against Paraguay.
Yeah,
and I remember there's 4 minutes left in the half because I remember looking up and it was past 40, and my stomach is just going right, and it's going. And I just make it to halftime. And I went up on a one-footed takeoff. When you get kind of twisted in a one-footer when you kind of come off on an angle.
Yeah.
And what was that guy's name? Rio Coca or something? No, what was his name?
No, Rio Coca. It was Roque Santa Cruz.
Roque Santa Cruz. Yeah. And so I go, and he was a big dude. He was 6'3" or 6'4". So
really handsome.
Kind of going up. I'm trying and I just right at the end.
No way.
And I'm square right. Think we had tights on, and I just shit myself.
I've never known that. I played right next to you that whole time.
Yeah, you know, for
I've never known
minutes. 3.5 minutes, because right at 45, I came in. I'm like, Bob, I feel like shit. I've just shit myself. Like, I think I'm good, dude. Because I think he was going to take me off anyway. And so, anyway, that's my story.
That was the second half was a rough one. You didn't miss out.
Yeah, because I wasn't there next to you, Jimmy. That's why.
We could argue for sure.
Yeah.
In the positive fashion that's most likely true. But I don't even remember the original question, Scott. But you know what? We're having a hell of a time talking about us playing together. Yeah, I mean, I always enjoyed playing with Jay. It was awesome. I think we're very similar in some ways. I think his story is obviously remarkable. I was a walk-on, you know, and a little engine that could. So I think there's a lot of similar themes in us trying to prove people wrong and having chips on our shoulders. And I think we parlayed that into some tremendous success. And that's what was cool to play with him. I wish we would have had a few more games together, but obviously Oguchi Anye was pretty good too. And so is Carlos Bocanegra, and so are a few other guys that can man the center back position. But it was always a big thrill to play with Jay.
Yeah, and I was the same. You know, it's just, you know, when you and Jimmy had been there for years before I got there, so it was kind of like I was kind of coming in with these guys that I not grew up, but like watched, because I came really late, so I didn't even have a choice of being in the professional space until I was 23. So I was just watching these guys on TV, like you know, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, I'm there with them, and I'm like, whoa, like that was my transition into starting to play with these guys, because sometimes you have this imposter syndrome when you're not like from there, and you're like, oh, I've never been in this situation before. And so, but again, those guys were good guys and they were good players too. And so they, you know, you can learn pretty quickly when you play with and against these types of players. And I think it's just about, you know, again, having that work ethic, or playing that humble card, I guess, maybe because you weren't supposed to be there. Like, you'll put in the extra work, you'll do the extra thing, you'll say the extra mile, like whatever that is. I think you just learn to do that. And I think that's why I liked playing with Jimmy. That's why I liked, you know, playing with guys like we play, because it's like I don't have to question that. Mm-hmm. You know, you play with some of these guys and they're like, I gotta question their work ethic. I gotta question like how they're going to react to their teammates and stuff, because they grew up in a place where they weren't very adverse. They didn't have to like take on all this stuff and like be happy to be there, because they got their laundry folded when they were 12 and their meals paid for by the time they were 15, and always got told until most of the time their whole lives until they were 35 that they were really good at something and how awesome they were. Like very, very rarely does that like adverse happen. And your traditional 90% of player that makes it to national team, you know, you're getting guys that at 14, 15 that are in these academies. And again, if I had that chance, if Jimmy had that chance and somebody called you up, Jim, and was like, yo, hey, we want to fly you down to Florida and we want you to play with the world's best players, would you do that? No, I'd be like, no, I'm going to stay up here in Wisconsin and like watch Packers games with my buddies and drink beer. And, like, you know what I mean? Like that. Would I do that? No, of course I'd go down there too. But again, that wasn't my path. And I think, you know, I think in the end, those things ended up being my greatest assets as a player. And I think Jimmy's too. And in a way it works, because when you play with those types of players, you can complement each other and it actually works. And,
Jay, how old were you when you got your first cap?
27.
I was 28. So we are both late bloomers in that capacity.
Yeah.
And in some ways, what's crazy is I don't know if I would have been emotionally prepared to get called into a youth national team camp, or had I been 19 or 20 and obviously demonstrated that I had some ability. I honestly think I needed that 6 or 7 years of seasoning before you took me out of the oven and let me go. I don't know if I would have been able to cope with that pressure in the same way. Whereas when I got my opportunity, I was ready. I had never been more ready in my whole entire life. I'd been preparing to get called into the national team and overlooked so many times. And the only reason I got called in is because Danny Califf went to go try his luck in Europe. So I got called into a January camp. That's the only reason. I mean, I obviously was close enough to the national team scene to be considered once Danny Califf left, but I was still on the fringes. And when he left, I just took my opportunity with both hands. Like, I'm not letting this go. I'm going to try to turn this into something. And I never played with any fear or doubt, because this was it. I was ready. And I don't know if I could have said that had I gotten that opportunity at 21 or 22.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, it was the good thing about it was that I was actually like from a club level, almost that was what was preparing me for those moments. Because again, because I came so late, I didn't even turn pro till I was 23. And so I'm like in England, but then all of a sudden by year 2, I score the goal that gets us promoted. Year 3, I'm captain of the team. I'm playing in the Premier League. Like
that's that
crazy. All of a sudden, and I haven't even gotten called up to a national team yet. And so, and again, that kind of happened thicker and faster. But then all of a sudden, Bob calls me, and he's like, "Hey, I see what you're doing. I remember your name from Chicago." But he's like, you haven't been on our radar at all. And I'm like, "Well, I know, because I've been playing in front of a cow and 3 people for 40 bucks. No wonder why you haven't heard of me." You know what I mean? Like, I get it. And then so again, I never took those things personally, but it was just like, I finally get this call up, and I know I'm late, but then a week earlier I played against Bocanegra at Fulham. Like 2 weeks before that, I was out in Manchester with Tim Howard, like, and playing against him at Everton. Like I had these experiences, and I knew these guys before I actually sat at the table with them. And so all of a sudden I come in first cap, and I'm sitting, and and again, those guys are like, "Jay, you can come sit with us." And again, like that for me was like a big thing. And because I knew them, I'd known them socially and played against them. And I think there was like a little bit of a mutual respect, but in a way it gave me the confidence to sit at the table and be like, yeah, actually, they're not doing 2 dissimilar things than I'm doing every day of my life. I'm this person, but I know I wasn't built there, but I know I'm here now because we do the same day to day. I played against them last week. Why wouldn't I? I mean, I get like, you got to earn your stripes in this life, and that's the way I am. But it was also like, I felt I had earned it. I felt I had come in with more confidence than probably your generalized 23-year-old that's maybe had 1 cap, but has, been a good winger on an MLS club. Like, again, that's no disrespect to that role and that thing. But what I had gone through, and then I become a leader of that club as well in England, and I come in with that skill set on my first cap, that's really rare from the other side. And so I think for me, I just always appreciated that and kind of ran with that. I took confidence in that. And I think it did help me kind of hit the ground running once I got to the national team.
Yeah, when you guys, now you're a little older and wiser, and you're the venerable old sages of.
Still drinking water.
Appreciate that. It's still early out there, so yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, so when you're potentially having conversations with younger kids who are eyeballing, getting onto the national or into the national program. What advice are you giving them to kind of harden them up, so to speak, so that they can kind of approach things the way you guys did?
Go ahead, Jay. I'll just go first on this one.
Okay,
I mean, in all honesty, and again, I work in teenage program. This is kind of my specialty, but I mean, you got to soften them to harden them first, as far as I'm concerned. Well, you come hard at kids these days, they're just going to soften right up. So you can't do that first. You got to soften it first. It's opposite. You got to come in and you got to go, "Hey, man, you got big dreams and you got goals, but how are you going to get there? And I appreciate it. It's harder right now. And you got a lot of competition in front of you. And I understand that this pressure and this thing is something that we don't understand even as coaches." And then they go, "Oh shit. Like, okay, yeah. Okay. Well, this is what I want. And this is what I want to do. Okay. Now I can have a conversation with you to work with you. And then we can be good mentors and then say, okay, you got to harden the fuck up. Like, for real. Like, only then can you do it. When can you say it? When can you introduce it? But like, that's when you can go, okay, now I have your attention. Now I have your ability to actually want to practice. Now this is what it actually is. And this is what you're actually in for, because this is actually the hardest part. It's knowing what you're in for. And actually when you see it and that first punch of your face comes, you're like, oh shit. So instead of turning around, you go, that's what I expected. Give me another one. And that's the hardening of the sword. But it's also like, you got to be able to enter that arena with some kind of purpose. And if you're not softening that in, and you're not helping these kids understand themselves a little bit earlier, which I think is the biggest problem. We're not giving, this is what I do now, is I try to build programs and curriculums and products that help them understand who they are. Because when you understand who you are, then you have the ability to navigate. If I'm telling you what to do, and then Jimmy's telling you what to do, and this podcast is always telling you what to do, you're in for it, man. It's not going to work. You're just going to sit there and spin in circles. You're not going to go anywhere. And I think, that navigation path starts here, but then it takes here to actually educate and to help and to support. And I think that's the system for me. And that's the system that we build in our programs. And And again, I'm not going to say it's getting better. I'm saying our job is to make it better, and because it's a wild world out there.
Yeah, first and foremost, I love what Jay's doing. His leadership stuff is fantastic. Rise and shine. If people don't know, please go check it out. I'm sure Scott will have all the links and everything that you need to follow. It's very good and inspiring, and it does. I've taken some of that from what I see with Jay, taking his lead in some ways, or taking some notes from his lead. I've come off 3.5 months of working with teenagers in high school during a season, and they're not thinking pros or national team per se. They're just thinking, I want to get into college. So there's still that their pressure they're putting on themselves, and I love Jay's approach in terms of like getting to know the kid, right? You gotta know how they tick, and ultimately they need to know how they tick for them to really mine who they are, what they're about. And one of the things that I started with my players was their why. Why do you do anything? Like so and your why can change. It doesn't mean it has to be concrete the whole time. You know, for me, my why in high school was I was on JV my freshman year, and there was a really pretty girl on varsity, on her varsity team. She was a freshman like I was. And I'm like, she's never going to respect me or like me if I'm just toiling away on JV. Now, I obviously had aspirations. I wanted to be a good player. I was already kind of pushing myself in that space, but that was extra added motivation. And so she was factored into my why at that moment. And then your why changes. And when you think about that's your overall why. Now, when you get into the why of the game, I wanted my players to be able to answer questions for me by the end of the season. Why are you making that pass? Why are you taking that decision? Why are you like, they need to be able to demonstrate their why.
Locked up for you too?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, the bad thing is that he'll upload and then it'll be fine. So,
yeah. Okay.
We'll just be sitting here. Yeah. We'll just be sitting here talking over him. Yeah.
Oh, like an ejection.
Oh, now he's gone.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm looking at some snow falling down, so I might be able to get back up on the mountain tomorrow. I got my buddy, my boy, for the next couple of days, and so I'm up here. I was in Toronto speaking at the Ontario Coaches Conference this weekend, which was good. It was 700 coaches. I work with this O'Neill's brand that does all of our merch and stuff, and they're awesome Irish guys, an Irish company, and they've just signed Ontario Soccer, 390,000 players.
Holy cow!
In Ontario, yeah, I mean Ontario's big,
yeah,
but it's still
that's a lot of players though.
Yeah. And so they're kind of shitting themselves a little bit because they're not a huge brand, but they're big in Ireland. But Ireland's not a very big place, so now they're trying to scale into America, and they're like, "Oh shit! Like, we got work to do."
Yeah, just like from a scaling standpoint and like manufacturing and that sort of thing, or
yeah, I mean the good thing about their manufacturing is that they don't source anything. They everything is in house, and so I've even been to their factories in Dublin and stuff, and they got 2 factories in Ireland. And they make their own fabrics too, so nothing is out of there. They do delivery time in 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, cool! Yeah, so they do full kits and then like
they do rugby, they do Gaelic football, they make basketball jerseys. I did last year's camps. I did basketball jerseys for my kids. I didn't even do soccer jerseys.
Yeah,
I want them to wear it to a party.
Right.
You know, not necessarily just to train. And so that's kind of I did like pink and purple basketball jerseys with like yellow things and like the mountain in the background and like all sorts of cool stuff. I designed all the Sneaky Fox jerseys and stuff too this year's kits because every year with it we're gonna do like a theme. And so this year's theme is to the moon.
Okay.
And so actually we're not, if we are on there, but we won't put that in because Jimmy's not on. But yeah, we don't want to do that yet because we're going to announce that probably in March.
Okay.
With the team, but we're not quite ready yet for that. So once we get a couple more sponsors in place, but that's the plan. And so anyway, I've been designing. We got Galaxy. Like I'll show you one.
Yeah, I only live like 4 hours from there. I'm coming down.
Oh, you got to come down. I'm telling you. It'll be fucking unlike anything you've ever seen. Okay, do you want to see the white one or the black one?
Let me see them both, man.
Okay, so you got to do black and white. Oh, I can't show them.
Nice. Those are cool. That's
sick. What's up, guys? Sorry about that.
Because this year, Jimmy, look at these. So I designed all the jerseys. I just designed a second division team in Ireland's third kid. I did a whole thing for them.
No way.
With their Neils, and they let me design all this shit. But this last year, I designed our Sneaky Fox jerseys too. But that's kind of my part of my role.
Who's
in the club?
Who's the jersey sponsor you work with?
O'Neill's, which is an Irish company. It's Irish.
Oh, O'Neill's. Got it.
No, but this is the white kit for this year. I might do a couple small changes. No sponsors on it yet, but
I can't see it yet.
Every year we're going to do themes, right? Because every year we want to theme it out. And so this year's theme is, and again, this isn't for the recording, but it's to the moon. And so this is the jersey this year.
That's sick, dude.
And then I think we're going to take.
I'm a huge collar fan. I love collars.
I think we're going to make that Sneaky Fox logo into a moon.
No way.
Yeah, I think that's V2. We'll see.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
we're getting ours designed right now. Yeah,
it's super fun for me. I have a degree in design.
You got a sponsor, Jimmy?
So we are basically to help cover all these exorbitant costs. We have partnered with Quick Goal. Quick Goal is, they make all the goals. They're one of the main sponsors of the tournament, but they didn't feel like they got
the mannequins for $4,862 a piece.
Is exactly right. They didn't feel like they got a return that good of a return of investment on their stuff last year. So they want to be a team. So they're like, I was doing something with them on the side, and I just kind of vented about this fee, and they came back to me like a month later, like, what if we covered the fee? Would you change the name to Quick Goal FC? And at that point, me and Bees were like, yeah, shit, sure, that's no problem. So
yep, sounds great.
Yeah. So Quick Goal is taking care of the fee and basically offsetting almost all of our costs, which is insane. And we're adding a few more sponsors, which will help. We can add a few more players, as Jay said, right? There's a lot more games, more days.
Well, there's a lot more interest too from the gang. You know, I mean, there's a lot, like a secondary layer of players that know players, and so it's like, hey, was Buddy in there? Yeah, I saw that. Looks sick. I want in. We're getting that.
Yeah,
I'm sure you guys are.
Are you guys paying players? I think McGee told me you guys were not.
No.
Yeah, there's teams out there paying players, Scott.
Totally, dude, 100%. I mean,
I might lose one of my best players because he's going to get paid, and I can't begrudge him for it because he's.
Oh, exactly. I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why we're saying, but we're saying, hey, if you want to play for us, we're not doing it because unless we get, again, first you get to revenue, and then you get to now we can pay people. Until we get to that, we're not. You can't pay people too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Know.
Trying to figure out all that crap. Come on, you want to come and be with the gang and fight for $1 million? Okay,
right.
Get here. That's it. Just get here.
Yeah,
and then the rest is taken care of by the club. That for me is enough. It's not enough for some people, and I get that, but for me that's enough.
We pay for everybody to fly in. We pay for the hotels, and we give them per diem. We give them $50 a day, $60 a day.
Yeah,
and they get that on top of they're already getting a free meal at the hotel in the mornings for breakfast. So
totally,
I feel like that's we're investing a lot into these guys. So already,
and this year,
if they want to make a little bit more, what are you going to do?
And this year we're bringing a bunch of cases of Sneaky Fox vodka to give away.
I love that
because you can't sell it. You can't. You just have to give it away, and that's cool too.
I love that. And, anyway, I don't know where it called me off, but free massages from Jay DeMerit.
That's right. Especially after 2 Sneaky Fox vodka drinks.
Yeah, I don't know where it was either, Jimmy, but maybe just kind of start back with what were you saying?
That thing I would tell. Yeah, sorry, I got to change my kind of audio system. My internet went out on my main computer. It's a different internet. Long story, but So I guess you got me talking about Jay's stuff, right? So I just jump in after that.
Yeah, we were talking about youth development, why it's important. You just finished your third month of coaching kids and what you're seeing, and kind of where we were at.
Okay, cool. Okay, so coming off 3.5 months of being around 25, 26 teenagers, I feel like I have a really good idea of what Jay's doing on the regular.
and how to manage these kids, and also to meet them where they are. So one, you got to get to know them, but then secondly, as I'm building a team, they need to understand how I want to play and how they're going to be used within that system. And so there's a lot of communication that needs to happen. And so one of the big things for me is understanding their why. Why do they play? Why do they do anything? Right? What inspires them? What motivates them? And once I get a better understanding of their why, I had individual meetings. It sounds very professional. I'm running a high school team like a professional team. But I had individual meetings with each player, and I asked them their why and asked them where they wanted to improve and what they wanted to get out of this experience. And then I had them do that first, and then we had our individual meeting, and we talked about it. And my plan was to have exit interviews afterwards, but we lost and on a golden goal, and it just like shattered all my plans in the playoffs. They're just they're so sad. Yeah,
I'm not filling out the form anymore.
yeah. But I told them that I'll make the exit interviews kind of optional. If they want to come back and circle back to what you had written before and see where it is, happy to do that. And a couple of them are going to take me up on it, but I'm not going to force the team because, they're kids. They're moving on, looking forward as they should. So I don't want to stuff that down their throat. But I thought it would be good for me to learn as a coach because I'm still learning as well. So the why is really important. And once I understand their why, then I try to help them see where they can be the best version of themselves as they work through adversity. Because what's interesting about a season in any sport is that every kid is going to go through something based on maybe a poor individual performance, or it's based on results, or it's based on playing time, or it's based on injury, right? There's always going to be something going on that they're going to have to cope with. And it's very interesting to see which kids are better equipped with those coping mechanisms. And for the ones that aren't, can we create a foundation for them to help them work through their adversity? For instance, I have one of my players who talked to me before saying, because I asked them to do there's 4 areas of development. I should give everybody some context. There's physical, right? So running faster, jumping higher. DeMerit's an amazing athlete. He never had to work on that side of it. There's the technical side, right? Your first touch. Then there's tactical, and technical is understanding the game, but also where is that first touch going to go? And what are you going to do with the ball when you get it, and having ideas. And then there's the mental emotional, which we could argue is probably the most important, but you obviously have to be very proficient in the other areas to have tremendous success. But the mental emotional, I had one player who somebody would make a mistake, or she would make a mistake, and dude, her next 5 plays were just a mess. So I just said, hey, listen, why don't you just for me, for the first play, when you're starting to feel like you're getting overwhelmed, just let it go. Just focus on the next play. And I told her my examples with the national team. And I couldn't get to the national team and then all of a sudden feel sorry for myself in the middle of a game because I made a bad pass. Like, the game moves so fast at the national team level, you just got to it is what it is, and you just got to keep going. You can't let it impact you. So I had to have some of my own coping mechanisms. And I missed a sitter. I don't even know why I want to admit this, but I missed a sitter in the 2005 Gold Cup final from like 2 inches away. Johnny O'Brien hit one from across, and it got deflected.
On that Sports Center, not top 10s. I don't know.
Oh, it should be number 1 of all time. And I somehow missed. I put it over the crossbar because I tried to take the speed out of it. Bad decision as opposed to just redirecting it.
You're a center. You're a center back.
I'm a center back. Not my job, but I could have been the hero in a Gold Cup final in front of 60,000 people in New York. Would have been awesome. And my coping mechanism at that time was to just organize people. Like, if I made a mistake, I'd just go right into organization mode, and I'd be like, hey, Trundalo, do this. Jay, do that. Chris Armas, do this. Landon, do this. Clint, do this. Whatever. I just moved on to the next play because I felt the sooner that I could move on, and it looked like I moved on, everybody else would move on as well. And it took me many, many, many years to master this. So I'm taking these little bits of info and trying to give it to my players that don't know how to work through this adversity. Listen, she first game, she's like, listen, I'm coming to you. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. I just want to talk about this. I'm like, cool, let's talk about it. Let's talk about tactics, or what are you seeing? And we just put it in that space. I never had an issue with her the rest of the season. Like, I gave her a tool to put in her tool belt to learn how to cope. And that was really awesome for me as a coach, very satisfying, and hopefully very satisfying for her. So these are the little things.
It's also something that, again, if you even go down that next layer, it's just good mentorship, right? And mentorship is all things and all people, right? I don't believe that mentorship is it's age-based. Mentorship is experience-based. My kid, through an experience, can mentor me as much as I mentor him. It's not something where people think that it's like this. I don't think it is. I think it's like this, but it's also like the mentor and the mentee have to be able to accept the information and receive it. So Jimmy had to come down with his experience, meet her at her level, share that experience. She gets it, applies it, and goes, wow, that actually works. Like, yeah, it does. But that's, again, it takes the trust to open, it takes the openness to actually accept the information. The information actually works, but then you got to do it. You got to practice the stuff. You know, you can't just talk about it. That's what I think we also suffer for in our developmental stages. We're like, everyone is just Googling shit on the internet and they're talking about it, but they're not doing it. None of them.
Yeah.
They're just talking about it and raising awareness around things we already know. Like, that's not the point. The point is, this is what's going on. Information is great. We never in this world have had more information than we do right now. Using it is what we should do. That's why we can scale things faster. That's why players are bigger, stronger, faster, all these things. Because we got all the data, we got all the stuff, we got all the science, we got all this stuff. But it's like practicing it, making it relatable to each athlete or pupil. Again, we have DJ camps and leadership camps that have nothing to do with sports. And so like I work with kids that are 320 pounds and 6'4" that just sit at home all day and like try to get away from their parents that hate them. You know what I mean? Like, these are also some of the kids that I work with, and they find the same exact issues and they have the same exact problems as the elite athletes that I work with. It's exactly the same. And again, going back to Jimmy's point and kind of what I'm talking about now, it's like when you got to meet them where they live or where they are. And that's through technology, through information, and it's also through actually going to the level and understanding what they need. And that's support. It's like, what do you need? From there, now you can have a relationship and start a conversation. The conversation now begins like, okay, now once you have this conversation, now we can create a connection. From there, we can build practices. Practices build resiliency or knowledge. Both will win, but both when you practice will give you like 100%. You just have to do it. But getting to the point where you can break the shell, get into their emotional, get them to practice so they can actually see it themselves is really, really hard to do, especially now and more and more. And so now it's just about how do you actually create better systems for it? How do you create better products for it? And so this is where my focus goes. It's not about awareness anymore. This thing that I say all the time in all these conferences I go speak at and all these things. I'm like, you guys, we're not telling them anything that they don't already know or that you don't already know. Where are the products? Where are the practices? Where are the curriculums? Where are we going to start to bring, again, they're all data driven and money driven. Okay, cool. Well, make some new practices and some new products and we'll get you some new data. But none of them want to invest in it because they've already invested in a bunch of other things that make them a bunch of money. And so they don't care. They don't care about the kid. They're making a couple schmillies a year just by putting jackets on kids. It's all they're doing. They're not developing them. And so that's kind of where my whole passion lives. It's like, again, I work with great programs all over the place. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, if you look at tracing backwards, getting to the point where we're actually making a difference and developing kids and finding new ways to use technology, information, practice, product, all these things, like only then can we start to see the results. And that's, hey kid, how you feeling today? I'm really happy to be here today, Jimmy. Today was an awesome session, bro. Thanks a lot for having me. I learned a lot. I can't wait to go home and eat a good, sensible dinner and stay hydrated for tomorrow. Like, you think it sounds simple, but you know how hard that is for kids? You know how hard that is to create a mindset around that? Like, it's really, really difficult. And so they need mentors. They need people that actually went to bed on time and ate the good stuff and walked out in front of 70,000 people and said, it's cool. This is what I did in that moment. You should try it because it might work for you too. And if it doesn't, cool, we'll move on to the next thing. That's not the point. But good mentorship, to do a really long-winded answer, is that it's the key to all of it. And again, in my programs, I bring in mentors that aren't Jimmy. I bring in the scientist, the neuroscience expert to talk about breath, the chef to talk about nutrition, the nutritionist to talk about hydration, and the fireman to talk about how hard it is to run into a burning building and save people's lives.
You don't need to bring me in you got your own story that's probably more powerful than mine, even though we have similar themes. I think too, Scott, I would add that there's a level of consistency that I like what Jay's talking about, right? There's consistent themes, consistent actions is going to lead to creating the disciplines and habits that you need to have success. And ultimately, as I told the kids, and even when I met with the parents, and I'm going to have a little sidebar about the parents. Everybody's looking for how did you make it? Like a whole bunch of parents asked my parents, like, how did Jimmy do it? How did he get to play at the highest level? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, there's no shortcuts. They're like, everybody's looking for a shortcut. Everybody's paying $1 million to find the shortcut. The sooner you can accept that there are no shortcuts the easier this whole thing is going to be, and the way you attack it's going to be with open eyes, and everybody's looking for this, that, and the other, and it's perseverance, it's persistent actions, consistent actions, and really a good mantra is just to try to get a little bit better than you were the day before. And honestly, if you really subscribe to that and put that time in, the time that Jay's talking about, you are going to be so much farther along. And soccer's second. It's not even, soccer's the backdrop. It's not even, it's just how you're going to now approach your life in everything. You're going to start to frame it in a way where like, okay, I can manage this, and oh, right, this didn't go my way, or this person doesn't like me, or my boss doesn't like me, or whatever. But I've created enough of a foundation and a scaffolding that I can manage that situation, or my parents are being assholes or whatever. And I know how to navigate this, and I've created a comfortability with being uncomfortable. And that's another thing too, is a lot of people, and this is why me and Jay are probably successful, because I played with some incredibly talented kids when I was younger, that if they had had this type of structure, you wouldn't be hearing about Jimmy Conrad. That's for goddamn sure. These kids were unreal. But I broke through because I just had that foundation. I knew how to cope emotionally when things didn't go my way. But because when those kids get pushed, go ahead, keep going.
But it's also, I believe that was created through your experience. And you're gonna, you know what I mean? Like when you had those, moments, you that's like a level up. Like you had to go through the adversities probably before most of those people had to. So by the time you got to adversity land again, you would practice it a couple times. You're like, this isn't even an adversity. This is what this is what
exactly.
I expect in my approach to the way that my mindset has been built, or what you keep saying as well, which was I agree with, creative, to created. You know, all of those words of create are so important to development. And so again, if we're taking creativity away from our kids because we're not letting them be the players that they want to be, cool. Well, it's not really going to serve them in the long term. If we need to create our own experiences because we need to make the next one better, if I'm going to make the next team, I need to create a better way to train. I need to create a better way to enter into that room. I need to create a better training schedule for me to catch up. All of those things are relevant to creating the world that you want. And again, if you want to play pro, you're going to have to work really hard. If you want to play pro, you're going to have to be better than a couple thousand people that are already playing at a good level. In order to make that happen, then you're going to have to get better than a couple hundred. Then you're going to have to be better than 30. And then you're going to have to be better than 20. And then from there, you're going to have to be better than 12. And then from there, you're like, okay, now you're there. But how long does that take? How many years does it take? How many hours of practice? But more importantly, how many hours of being creative in your approach to you? And this is, again, what we've talked a lot about. Like, where's the individual path that makes Jimmy the creator very different than Jay the creator? But our paths actually end up in the same spot. That's because they're self-led. It's not because I'm doing what Jimmy's doing and Jimmy's doing what I'm doing. That's not how it works. It's Jimmy's doing what Jimmy needs to do and Jay's doing what Jay needs to do. And I think that's really where we're flipping the script in youth development, because right now this is the club and you need to do what they want to do. And then if you want to be like Messi, you do what he needs to do. And this is our system. So these are our number 8s and these are our 10s and this is what they do. So you need to be just like them. And in a way, I get it, because we need structure, we need formula, we need blueprint. But when you start taking away the personalities of the players because they're trying to mentally be like somebody else, that's a bad message. If you say, you're fitting into this system, now go be like you, much better way for them to take the information, but certainly for them to be creative in that environment to make it theirs. And that's the best part about coaching, is that like you can actually do these things and help people figure that out. And then they go do the work themselves. That's why I love playing for the national team, because all you had to go out there and do what you're really good at. That's it. You don't need to look at the guy next to you, and you don't need to tell the dude in front of you to hurry up and get back in front, because these guys are the best in the world at what they do. You don't have to tell them to do the basics. Like, this is the easy part. I got to tell them to like stay with the runner, and I got to do things in real time, but I'm not depending on them to work hard, communicate, be in the right spot, lead themselves, lead me. That comes in with being in the best 11 in the world, like for real. And so those games actually become easier.
I would say the same thing.
They're really hard up here. And that's the hard part, because you come in off 2 weeks and you're like, you get to train with this dude for 4 days. And then all of a sudden you got to play in front of 80,000. You're like, whoa, like, how do you do that? It's hard to do. But again, because of those pieces, because those 11 or 18, I'm going to be used, but like, because we know what we're doing, because you're already captains of the club, you're these things, you're walking into that environment going, dude, I can't wait to have your back today. And that's all I need to do. I don't need to do your job. I don't need to like take your touches. I don't need to tell you to step up with me. Like, I don't really need to do that because you're right there with me. And I think that's the elite level, but it's also like, it's a privilege to be there because it's actually easier.
I would jump in. I always love my national team games because it was easier, because everything was so clear cut. I just had to be really good at my job. And then maybe give a little bit of info to the players around me to help them be a little bit better at theirs. And that was I don't know how hard that was for you, Jay, but it was tough for me initially. Like, who am I to tell Claudio Reyna, who's played in 4 World Cups or whatever, like what to do? But that's my position on the field. Like, I have to give him information. So I thought the best way to do that was I went up to him. I went up to Pablo Mastriani, who played in a couple World Cups for us, and John O'Brien. These are like some of our most talented midfielders of all time. And I say, hey, guys, I'm not a yeller to yell. But if I'm giving you information, it's because I want to make the game easier for you. And if the game's easier for you, that means you're probably doing less running. And everybody wants to do less running, right? So I came in with that approach. Now, then it was pivotal for me to make sure I gave them information that helped them. And once they realized that they were getting that information and it was making the game easier for them, the buy-in was complete. And so those little communication moments, especially at the highest levels, is super important. But this could obviously be used anytime you're walking into a new environment and you're a little bit nervous. The more you're like, hey, I just want to make the game easier for you, everybody's open ears for that. Oh, tell me how you can make my life easier. I mean, so there's another way that not only are we mentoring when we're coaching in terms of ourselves, but how do we connect with the people around us? How do we meet our teammates where they are? How do we meet the coach where he is or she is? Where? So all these little insights, I think, are really important. I'm glad that me and Jay are trickling back into the system, because I think we can. And I loved your point too, Jay, about that we're getting very position specific and not allowing our players to be themselves. And I think what's important, and anytime I have a chance to talk to youth coaches or whatever, it's okay to set the parameters. Everybody should know their role and how they should move based on how you want to play. But within those parameters, you got to let the kids be themselves. You have to not suffocate their personality, or otherwise you're not going to get the best version of that kid. So that's on the coach at that point to kind of figure out the pieces and obviously put their players in the best positions to succeed and feel good about themselves. And hopefully the results will follow, because everybody's so results oriented. But yeah, it's fascinating. And again, I can't reiterate how much I appreciate Jay and what he's doing.
Well, and again, lastly, for me too, like, it's just products as well. And so that's kind of what we're doing. And it's a good way for me to finish. Like, we haven't launched yet, but the idea is, okay, now we have these concepts and we have these abilities to like improve, and we have these products that can help us do that through technology and mentorship and online things that are free and accessible. And so that's kind of what our goals are. It's like, but it still comes down to the self-actualization of the user. And so what that means is like our program is based on the brain. And so the app is going to be your profile is not your face, it's your brain, and it's one of the 9 forms of intelligence. So everyone you learn from, like if we learn from you, Scott, you learn from Jimmy, you can learn about, media training, how to be creative in your approach to writing script, or how do you train for a World Cup? Like, just in this room alone, you can see where the 9 forms of your intelligences would be given back episodically through your experience and your intelligence, right? And so this is where mentorship lives. But then it's like, okay, well, how do you participate with it? And so if Jimmy does this like push-up contest before he goes and trains, you can do that. If Jimmy does a 50-yard sprint because this is how he likes to warm up, like, you can do that with him. And you can set up your phone and show me that you can sprint with Jimmy too. I don't know how long you'll last with that foot, but the idea.
I should say that I've never been ripped. So you saying push-ups makes me laugh. And then a 50-yard sprint. 50-yard sprint, I'm not even the fastest guy, never have been. So like, you pick the 2 things that most kids would probably beat me at.
Well, all they're trying to do is be like you, but doing it in a way that you set the standard for. And so you go, and again, the same with you, Scott. You could do something like, you have to do a 3-line intro to a podcast if you were to start one. And again, I'm just making this up right now, but these are the things that we do. It's like, it's quick, easy ways that I, as user, can show and practice in what Scott, the podcast host that's been doing this and has these things and is this person. You can practice in that for a little bit, and then you get to do that. You set a little intro into the plant, the seed, and then you go, okay, now that was great. Thanks for participating. You just read some information. You took quizzes. You did an interview. You did a push-up contest. You get points for all that stuff. And so for those points now, you cash out on the things you like the Paris Saint-Germain skateboard behind Jimmy's head, the
Sick.
50 kids a month that he gets to come on a half-hour Zoom call so they can ask him Q&As about playing in a World Cup, or a special guest on the podcast that gets to come on and talk to your favorite guest over the next 10 weeks. And you get to come on and ask them questions personally, and a couple kids will be able to do that, or a couple users, whatever. So you can see where this goes, and it can go anywhere, and it can go on anything. But it going, again, back to the whole point is that it's still self-actualizing at the same time. So you can externally learn, you can externally score points, earn screensavers for your phone, visits and tickets to your favorite clubs. Like, you can do all that stuff, but in the end, you're getting what you want out of your journey. And in the meantime, your brain is getting bigger and bigger and bigger in 9 different directions. So therefore, when you're older and you're in your program, and in 5 years from now, you're going to be like, damn, I should be a kinesiologist because I really like bodily kinesthetic stuff. I'm kind of creative in the way that I do that. I love this practicing arts, and I love music because I've been doing these producer lessons, and I think I want to do that. And I just earned some sick tickets to this concert that's coming into town to go see this DJ. Like, that's a world that we can live in where I'm feeling like myself, but I'm deservingly being that because I've learned about myself enough that I can practice in myself. And then from there, I get to appreciate mentors and get to hang out with celebrities like Jimmy Conrad and come on his podcast. But, the idea is like, this is where we need to live when it comes to development. And development isn't just kids. Like, I want to develop still. I'm
Sure.
starting to develop all the time. But again, like, are there products for us to do that? Yeah, you can go meditate on the Calm app, but I'm not like getting better, and it's not that fun. You know what I mean? Like, so our goal is to make it fun, but make it interesting, but in the end, self-actualizing.
Yeah, I want to jump on that, Scott. Scott, really quick on Jay's point. The self-actualization is important because what I learned in my journey is recently with these teenagers was that they lack self-awareness. Not necessarily as people, potentially a little bit, but as players. And I think when I start to look at it, even at the professional level, you can tell the players that aren't students of the game. And I feel like you're gonna hit a ceiling if you're not a student. Like, you have to watch. You have to watch and see how other people are succeeding and failing. And then you have to go out there, and to Jay's point, you got to act on it, right? You have to go out there and try to see what's working and what's not. I mean, and if you're a student of the game, you'll take all the information, even the negative information, and be like, cool, I'm so glad I got that negative information, because now that's going to shape what I want to do and how I want to do it moving forward. And so that self-awareness and self-evaluation is so important to progressing into the person that you want to be, and really kind of helping the kids understand their why. And then once they understand their why, the how are they going to make who they want to be happen? And laying that foundation, laying that path is super important. So self-actualization, self-awareness, self-evaluation all ties into getting to where you want to go. And so, really powerful stuff. And I hope that some people can get something out of what we're talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was really good. I mean, with your app, Jay, you're basically helping people develop good habits, discipline through, kind of a good balance of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So it's really cool. It sounds like, can't wait to check it out.
It's been a long slog, man. Like, after COVID, there was no money. That now you just sit on your ideas, and then you watch people catch up, and then it's like, oh, you're seeing all these ideas. But it's like, for me, I don't care. I hope they all win. Like, for real. Like, that's how I roll. Like, if there were people out there trying to make this world a better place instead of trying to exploit your activity and your information so I can make money off you, like, that is not cool. And that is not why that is why we are in the situation that we are, where we are feeling inhumane left, right, and center. Because we're actually not acting like humans. We're not connecting with each other. The sense of community has basically been lost. Our community centers are gone. We like all of those things that actually we bring those things together with, that we all did when we were kids. And my mom would drop me off at the Y and pick me up like 8 hours later. Like, cool. And in that Y, I would do art. I'd run the track with my buddies. We'd do like lap competitions. We'd basketball. We'd go fight each other in the wrestling ring. And then we go weights.
And given the amount of energy that you have now, I can't even imagine, Jay, what you look like when you were a kid. So I completely understand why your mom's like, yeah, I'm just going to drop you here for about, I'll see you in 8 hours, buddy.
No, she's still down. The only one that can out energy me is my own kid, and he's 8. But anyone else, good luck.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, cool, gentlemen. We're at an hour there, so I'll get you guys out of here. But I really appreciate it as always. And, thanks for always being willing to come on. I really, really appreciate it. It's awesome.
We should do a Q&A, Scott. You get some questions from your audience, and we'll come back on and answer some questions.
Done deal. I'll make it happen.
We always have things to talk about.
I could have gone on another hour on the development alone.
Yeah, for sure. I think you guys are good at talking. So definitely.
100%. All right, well, Jimmy, we'll see you on the flip side and see you in a couple months, dude. Sharpen those elbows, get that foot ready, dude. I'm working.
I gotta get the foot ready first.
I'm working
one
on
step
my
at a time.
I got some new orange tapes coming in, dude. I got some new gold fox pendants I'm gonna add to the chain.
I love it. I can't wait to see you, dude. It's gonna be great.
Set that place on fire.
I can't wait. All right, I'll see you soon. Scotty, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.
See you guys.
Take
Bye.
care. All right, see you.